based on the works of Karol Wyszyński. Diaries of Magic Eyes.
Dear Diary, we managed to save Plamina, but at what cost? Yesterday evening we managed to reach the abandoned mine where the kidnappers were hiding. 2 bandits were guarding the entrance, so we had to deal with them. Then we quietly delved into the mine corridors. We overheard a conversation between several bandits, from which we learned the probable location of Plamina. Surprisingly, we managed to get to the cell unnoticed. My heart skipped a beat when I saw the unconscious and beaten body of my friend. We were unable to revive her, so we had to carry her out of this cursed place. I noticed that Dobrzegnew's facial expression changed as he looked at Plamina, but I didn't have a chance to ask what was going on because the bandits came and raised the alarm. We had no choice. We had to fight our way out. Me, Dobrzegneu, Bratimir, and Izber were at the front fighting the advancing enemies, and Jarmila, carrying Plamina, was following us from behind. We slowly moved forward. Unfortunately, the passage was blocked, and we had to look for another way. We reached a dead end. We had no way to escape. We fought with all our strength. We thought that maybe we would manage to get out of this, when suddenly we heard Jarmila scream. It turned out that there was a hidden passage behind the wardrobe from which 5 enemies emerged and attacked our comrade in arms who was busy helping us. Jarmila was wounded in the arm. Bratimir immediately rushed to help, pushed one away, then attacked the second, started fighting the third when he saw the fourth attacking the defenseless Jarmila. Bratimir jumped back and shielded his beloved with his own body, taking the blow straight to the chest. We all froze in terror. I saw my companion's lifeless body fall to the floor, and the bandit just raised his weapon to finish him off. There was no time to think. I activated my magic eyes and moved full of rage. I pierced the bastard with my spear and pushed him up to the wall. I used so much force that the hilt couldn't withstand it and broke. I immediately drew my daggers and dealt with the rest. When I dealt with them, I went back to help Dobrzegneu and Izber. All the while, using my magic eyes, I jumped over them and jumped into the crowd of kidnappers. I attacked one by one, but they kept coming. Suddenly, Dobrzegneu told me to retreat. As soon as I passed him, his eyes glowed blue, just like his mace and shield. He hit the shield with his mace with all his strength, and I saw the shockwave knock down all the opponents in front of us. We picked up the barely alive Bratimir, the wounded Jarmila, and the unconscious Plamina and started to leave. We stopped every now and then to deal with the next opponents. While leaving the mine, 2 archers stood in our way. I took care of them by throwing my daggers at them, so I was left without a weapon, but we managed to get out. After a few moments, we managed to reach a village called Raspberry Village. We went to an inn where we begged for a doctor. Luckily, there was one on site, but he refused to help us due to Dobrzegnew's bad reputation. We were devastated. How could he not help us when we were mortally wounded? The doctor replied that he would help us for a generous fee, but he didn't want money. He wanted something valuable. We didn't have anything like that, so we thought our companions were going to die, but then I remembered something. I pulled a bottle of hop wine from my bag that my parents had given me as a farewell and asked if that would be enough. The doctor, speechless, grabbed the bottle, opened it, and tasted the contents. Then he ran out of the inn, leaving us stunned. Fortunately, he returned a moment later with medicine and began dressing our wounds. Izber hadn't left Jarmila's side for a moment, and Plamini was fine. We were most worried about Bratimir. He was in the worst condition, and we didn't know if he would survive. Dobrzegneu and I were sitting on the bench, waiting for any news. It was obvious that he was on the verge of a breakdown. I put my hand on his shoulder to comfort him. He looked at me with his blue eyes filled with fear and concern. When he looked at me like that without saying a word, something changed. We both slowly started to get closer to each other until our lips met. This gentle touch turned into a deep kiss. I grabbed his cheeks and held them as if I didn't want to let go. Then he put his arms around me, and I felt a piercing pain in my left shoulder. I instinctively stepped back and looked at my shoulder. I saw a bleeding wound. In all this shock, I hadn't noticed it until now. I looked back at Dobrzegneu and saw the terror in his eyes. I reassured him that it was just a scratch, and I would dress it myself right away. He refused, saying he would take care of it himself, and went to get some dressings. He helped me take off my armor and started disinfecting the wound. To distract me from the pain, we started talking. He asked me who I really was since I had magic eyes. I saw something like anger mixed with concern in his eyes. I told him I could ask him the same question. There was silence. Neither of us said anything. After he finished applying the dressing, we continued to wait for news from the doctor. Finally, the doctor came out. He said that Jarmila would recover, as would Plamina. We asked about Bratimir. The doctor hung his head and said that we should say goodbye. We were speechless. We still hoped that he would survive. We entered his room. He was lying on the bed covered in bloody bandages. His brother stood next to him, and Jarmila kneeling, who was in tears. Bratimir confessed his love to his beloved and closed his eyes. The next day, we buried him together in a nearby cemetery. We spent the whole day locked in our rooms in the inn, overwhelmed by the tragedy.